Cyclone Cheneso hovers off the Madagascar coast on tonight's tropical weather bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical weather bulletin for January 26th. Cheneso still the main feature on tonight's tropical weather bulletin, holding firm as a category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, with signs of gradual intensification continuing today. Elsewhere around the world there's not too much going on, but we'll talk you through that in just a moment. It's code yellow on Ticos due to Cheneso. In the Atlantic it's quiet, 126 days until hurricane season. You've just got one or two fronts, one of them moving off the east coast of the United States, a slight risk over there around the coastal region, and that will head out to sea shortly. Elsewhere down in the southern part of the world, around Australia, not much going on there. There's a little bit of convection bubbling up, but we do have a 10% chance marked now in the North Indian Ocean, a new area of interest that's starting to develop, and models have been a little bit intrigued by this potential system, but hardly anything being produced by it, but a 10% nonetheless for a system that could head towards Sri Lanka in the next 5 days. And then the main feature, Cheneso, there it is once again, still a category 1, still very much in a similar position that it was yesterday in our update, and perhaps it's stalling a little bit more than we originally expected, which is obviously bad news for the coast of Madagascar, the western region, which is currently under the threat of this storm right now. Let's take a look at satellite imagery, look out for any red zones on this rain rate sequence. And see quite a bit of it in the northern bands of Cyclone Cheneso, and that's where we have real cause for concern, and a few areas across the Indonesian islands as well, some local rainfall occurring there. Here is the latest satellite imagery on Cheneso, a 24-hour sequence here from the Indian satellite showing an enhanced infrared view on what the storm's been doing. The eye has been becoming gradually clearer over that time. The convection has been wrapping around only partially most of the time, but a lot more fully in the last few frames there, which is interesting to see. We might see some more faster intensification on the way if that continues. And look at the amount of convection blowing up on the northern side of the storm, that northerly band there, really causing massive thunderstorms to blow up in northern Mozambique and over towards the other countries nearby as well. And here is the storm once again on the other enhanced band on the RAM imagery. Look at those light yellow colours reaching the northwestern part, Menabe province of Madagascar. Extremely cold cloud tops. That denotes probably heavy rain rates underneath there. But the core of the storm itself looking better, I would say, in the last few hours on that imagery, and a warm eye within that as well, which is slowly getting better organised, better structured. Sea surface temperatures across the world look like this right now. Look out for temperatures of 80 degrees or more in Fahrenheit. That's 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. You're seeing a few there that are close to that temperature and around that temperature there in the Caribbean Sea. Of course, we're not expecting anything in the Atlantic. There's just nothing there. But the temperatures still stay fairly warm throughout the winter. The Arabian Sea quite cool there in the higher latitudes, and look now to the southwest Indian Ocean. This is where the action is right now. Temperatures really high, not quite as high as they were with Cheneso being over the area. Those temperatures do start to drop, but it's still 28 degrees underneath the storm right now. The rest of the Indian Ocean still quite warm, 27 degrees into the North Indian Ocean where the other system is towards the Australian region. Right on the coast, it's getting up there now towards 30 degrees Celsius, 29 a little bit further out to sea, and 29 commonplace around the rest of the coast of Australia through to the Cape York Peninsula. On the east side off the coast of Queensland around 28 C, and near Vanuatu 29 as well, and pushing 29 near Fiji too. The Western Pacific, north of the equator once again, around Guam, temperatures looking decent at 82 Fahrenheit, that's 28 Celsius, and looking out at the South China Sea, also looking decent. Look at the anomalies here. You can see it's a mixed bag in the Indian Ocean, but it is starting to trend a little bit warmer. The Australian cool pool has been reduced quite a lot, and there is increasing warmth south of Fiji and around New Caledonia and Vanuatu. In the Western Pacific, also a bit above average. The La Nina effect is still very much there, but has been on a waning pattern in the last few months, but is still holding on at the moment. Looking at the oceanic heat content, it's still building gradually, almost reaching its peak now in the southern hemisphere, and you can see those colours really starting to reach down towards Samoa and the Fiji Islands. In the Western Pacific, it's still holding on to some orange zones there to the south of the Mariana Islands, and if any systems end up in that area, they'll have a decent chance of becoming a strong early season typhoon, but we've not seen anything like that yet. Let's check the GFS computer model over the next 5 days, and this is what it now expects from Cyclone Cheneso. It's going to get moving shortly and then turn south and southeastwards. It's not forecasting as strong a peak as it was yesterday now, so we're probably looking now at a category 2 peak, maybe high-end category 2 at a push. And certainly a significant increase in size, which is already occurring really, and those tropical storm force winds which will wrap all the way around the southern part of Madagascar around the other side. Check the rainfall projections as well out to 7 days here. Anywhere in yellow, that's 5 inches roughly, 125 millimeters accumulated in 7 days. Orange zones getting higher towards the red zones, which is approaching 15 inches. Let's take a look at some numbers. 11 inches there, looks like that's the maximum that we're looking at. That's over 250 millimeters of rainfall, and the northern region there as well, 9 inches there too. So we're still looking at significant amounts of rainfall, not as much anymore that we were looking at on previous forecasts, but on top of what we've already seen, it's still potentially a recipe for disaster, particularly in Menabe province, which is still under a lot of rainfall, with the storm still quite close to land, probably about 100 kilometers or so if I were to guess. If not, it wouldn't be much more than that. Let's check the longer range, day 5 through 10. You can see Cheneso turning post-tropical, and off it goes down there as a hurricane strength extratropical cyclone. Now look towards the top right for a new system developing in that 10-day period in the Australian region. There it is circled, a tropical cyclone that starts to develop there. Let's watch what happens to Cheneso then as it becomes extratropical. There it is, taking a long journey down south over there and eventually affecting the weather in New Zealand, the southern part of it at least, with potentially gale force winds. That's all the serious stuff done. You can scan the barcode and take a look at the Force 13 merch store, where we have all of our usual items, as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request at any time. And are still waiting for a Hone t-shirt, which we're still mercifully pushing because the Hone is just still hiding who knows where. Well, let's check the long range then, and this is the Southwest Indian Ocean once again. Let's see if anything else develops, and I can tell you the answer is yes. 2 systems there showing up on the long range GFS, very long range, becoming a cyclone there. That one on the left hand side, the one on the right much weaker, but if this was to occur, then that would be in the extreme long range towards 16 days. Not much emphasis we can put on that yet, but given that it's into February, I'm pretty sure we will see at least something. In the southeast Indian Ocean towards Australia, there's that cyclone, then a real mess that goes on there, and a storm gets sucked into another one, and a hurricane strength storm grazing the northern coast of Western Australia and then pulling out to sea eventually. That's around the 10th of February when that occurs, and that event begins around the 6th. So you can see that occurring. But once again, that's a very long range. That's still nearly 2 weeks out, so there's a lot of time between now and then for things to really change on those models. But to discuss that and anything else to do with weather, especially tropical weather, you can join our Discord server, discord.gg/force13 for live tropical weather chat and general weather chat as well. What happened on this day in the world of storms? It was January 26, 2011 when we had a Wilma of a different kind, not the one that most people know, but it was a Category 4 Cyclone Wilma, which was peaking on this day down in the South Pacific, was curling towards the south and then southeast eventually towards New Zealand, of course weakened a lot before it got anywhere near. Anthony was also to the west in a tropical depression phase in between two tropical storm stints. It wasn't very strong at peak. And Bianca off the west coast of Australia, a Category 1 at this point near the coast. Back to this year, and we're still waiting for our 6th storm. Of course, it feels like Cheneso's been split into 2, but it's really been one long slog with this storm in scientific terms. The next name in the Atlantic is Arlene, the first name of the year. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Adrian, and in the Central Pacific, of course, it's our beloved Hone. In the Western Pacific, the next name on this 5 is Sanvu, and in the North Indian Ocean, we'll be looking out for Mocha. Could it be this 10% chance system? It's unlikely. And in the Southern Hemisphere, next up in the Australian region is Freddy, the Southwest Indian Ocean, Dingani, and in the South Pacific, it's Judy. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.